So preparation of financial statements of limited companies. Candidates should understanding of the features of accounting of treatment of ordinations, bonus issues, right issues, debentures, dividends, and reserves. Questions will not be set on preferentials. The advantages in presenting to the company and the shareholder of a company making bonus issue of shares and right issue of shares. The advantage is in the company and to the shareholder of the company issuing shares and right issuing debentures. The distinction between capital reserves, share premium and derivation reserve and revenue reserves, retaining return earnings and general reserve. How to prepare ledger accounts to record. An issue of other issues at par or premium, a right issue of shares at par or premium, and bonus issue of shares. For the purpose of bonus issue of shares, the revaluation reserve is not to be used. So, how to prepare a statement of profit or loss, statement of financial position, and statement of changes in equity for a limited company? The business may be a trading or a service business. So, sources of finance for specified purposes. Candidates are expected to use their understanding of financial accounts of sole traders, partnerships, and limited companies to evaluate relevant information and make informed business decisions. So the next part is analysis and communication of accounting information. So candidates will evaluate the various interests and range of information needed for parties who may have interest on the business. So candidates will assess how financial can be analyzed and interpreted using a range of financial ratios in order to alert users of financial statement to gain understanding of the business performance. They will explore the use of such ratios in comparison with similar business and industry benchmarks, including having an appreciation of balance to limit the usefulness of such an analysis. Users of accounting information. So here are the uses of accounting information. So candidates are understanding the different requirements of information of stakeholders, including owners, managers, employees, investors, lenders, suppliers, customers, government, public and environmental bodies. So how to communicate and analyze the information required by these different stakeholders. So the next part is calculation and evaluation ratios. So candidates who are understanding how to calculate accounting ratios to measure profitability, liquidity, and efficiency. Profitability ratios: gross profit margin, markup profit margin, return on capital employed, expenses to revenue ratio, operating expenses to revenue ratio, so liquidity ratios, current ratio, asset test ratio, efficiency ratios, non-current assets turnover, trade receivables turnover, trade payables turnover, inventory turnover in days, rate of turnover. So all this time, all these ratios in days and rate of turnover in number of times. Candidates must have used the formula given in appendix to section 3. They are the only formula accepted in the candidate's response. So the candidates are supposed to use only these formula. So other than that, you are not supposed to use any other formula which is available in any other books. So how to evaluate in profitability, liquidity, and efficiency of organization when interpreting ratios. Possible measures to improve profitability, liquidity, and efficiency of organization. The limitations of accounting information. Candidates are expected to use their understanding in the calculation of valuation of ratios to make informed business decisions using relevant information. So this is the end of financial accounting. So the next part, cost and management accounting. So this is as far as AS level is concerned. Okay, so AS level is concerned. So then cost and management accounting for AS level. So what are included in cost and management accounting AS level? So cost and management accounting highest level. Cost and cost behavior. Candidates will examine the classification of costs and the need to distinguish between the ways in which costs may be treated in terms of traceability and behavior. This will be explored within the context of why business need to understand the nature of cost for the purpose of pricing and decision making, serving as an introduction to examining traditional cost methods as defined in section 2.2. So materials and labor. So candidates have understanding of accounting for material and labor costs, how to identify and calculate fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable cost, and step cost. How to identify and calculate the elements of direct and indirect cost, how to calculate the value of closing inventory using the first in, first out, FIFO, and weighted average methods, perpetual and periodic. So the principles of just-in-time management of inventory. Candidates are used to, expected to use their understanding of accounting for materials and labor to evaluate relevant information and make informed business decisions. So rotational costing methods. Candidates will consider how to account for cost under absorption and marginal costing systems, as well as exploring the impact of changes in business activity. In doing so, candidates will be evaluating the benefit and limitations of contrasting approaches and examine how these tools may be used in determining the cost of and selling price of product and service and for management decision making and determining business opportunities. Costing applications. Candidates should have understanding of how to apply traditional costing methods to prepare preparation and costing statements using unique geography and batch costing. Principles in both manufacturing and service business is applicable. Absorption costing. Costing. Candidates who have understanding of the difference between the cost center and the cost unit, how to allocate and apportion overheads of different expenditure between production and service departments, how to calculate overhead absorption rates based on using an appropriate basis, the causes and calculation of under absorption or non absorption of overheads, how to prepare costing and profit statements using absorption costing, the uses and limitations of absorption costing, the usefulness of absorption cost data as a support for management decision making, non-financial factors and their significance. And the next step is the next lesson, very important lesson, marginal costing. So very interesting and challenging. So candidates have understanding of how to calculate the contribution of a product, how to interpret a break-even chart. Candidates should not will not be asked to prepare a break-even chart, so don't worry. So how to calculate the break-even point contribution to sales ratio, level of output to sales to achieve a target profit and margin of safety. The use and limitations of break-even analysis, how to prepare costing and profit statements using margin costing, how to prepare a statement reconciling the reported profits using margin costing and absorption costing, the uses and limitations of margin costing, the usefulness of margin costing data and support for management decision making, including make or by special orders, closing of business unit, limiting factors, target profit, non-financial factors, and their significance. And the last lesson in AS level, additional costing method, so cost to volume profit analysis. Candidate should have understanding of the advantages limitation of cost volume profit analysis, the usefulness of cost volume profit data as a support for management decision making, how to apply costing concepts to make the decisions and recommendations using supporting data, non-financial factors and their significance. Candidates are expected to use their understanding of costing to allocate relevant information and make informed business decisions. So that is all in AS level. So now coming up A level content. So A level content, financial accounting A level, preparation of financial statements. Candidates will develop the skills established on 1.5. So that is a statement of financial position of stakeholders in respect of preparation of financial statements. This will however explain the impact of changes in composition of partnership. Analyzing the external use of financial statements and associated notes required for limited companies. Candidates will further encounter the specific requirements for how manufacturing business account for the cost of production and those for non-profit making organizations in the form of clubs and societies. For the expected formats for the standard financial statements, see the document teacher. So this is also formats for financial statements. So we have discussed this also in separate lessons. So financial statements. So candidates should understanding the need for and purpose of financial statements for specific type of business. So specific type of business, so that is individuals, sole proprietorship, now it is partnership. So combination and understanding of goodwill and difference between purchase goodwill and inherent goodwill. So how to prepare partners capital account and current account to record changes requiring respect of goodwill and realization of assets. A change in partners profit sharing ratio, the introduction of new partner, the retirement of existing partner, resolution of a partnership. How to prepare the partnership evaluation account, statement of profit and loss, statement of financial position, including changes in partnership occurring halfway through an accounting year. How to prepare realization account and realization account. So the next lesson is preparation of financial statements of clubs and societies. The candidate should understanding of the distinction between receipts and payments account and income expenditure account. How to define and calculate the accumulated fund. How to prepare from full or incomplete accounting records, say receipts and payments account, accounting for trading and non revenue generating activities, a subscription account, income expenditure account, a statement of financial position. How to account for other receipts including like membership and donations. How to make adjustments to financial statements similar to what you have already learned in accounting for sole traders. How to evaluate possible sources of finance and methods of fundraising. So the next concept, the next part is manufacturing business. So candidates should understand of how to prepare manufacturing account to differentiate between direct and indirect expenses and to include factory profits. So this is very technical part. So identification of factory profit, and it is very technical. So how to prepare for manufacturing business, statement of profit and loss and a statement of financial position. How to account for manufacturing profit and elimination of unrealized profit for unsold inventory. The reasons why a business may account for manufacturing profit. Limited companies. Candidates should understanding of how to prepare for a limited company in line with the relevant international accounting standards and legal documents. Statement of profit or loss, statement of financial position, statement of cash flows, statement of changes in liquidity, schedule of non-current assets. Candidates are expected to use their understanding of the financial accounts of partnership, club and society, manufacturing business and limited companies to evaluate relevant information and make informed business decisions. Regulatory and ethical considerations. Candidates will examine the regulatory framework by exploring a number of international accounting standards and how they are applied within a set of financial statements. Candidates will further consider the wider ethical issues which conducting the practice of accounting and the need for accountants and business to behave in an appropriate manner. Related to this, candidates will assess the nature of stewardship in the context of limited company, which will enable candidates to develop a more detailed appreciation of the issue of ownership and control introduced in 1.1.1 and the associated requirement for independent examination of financial statement by an auditor. So we will be discussing next lesson is 3.2.1 International Accounting Standards. A candidate should have understanding of the main provisions of the following international accounting standards, that is presentation of financial statements, IAS to inventories, IAS and statement of cash flows, IAS accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and errors, IAS 10 events after the reporting period, IAS 16 property, plant and equipment. So you need to remember, learn this each international accounting standard numbers also. So IAS 36 impairment of assets, IAS 37 provision contingent liabilities and contingent assets, IAS 38 intangible assets. For the rest of the scope of IAS, the candidate is expected to follow the teachers, advise control the. So we need to learn all this in detail. So ethical considerations should have understanding of need for an ethical framework in accounting, the fundamental principles, integrity, objectivity, professional competence, and decay. So confidentiality, professional behavior, objectivity, professional competence, and decay, confidentiality, professional behavior, how the ethical behavior of accountants and auditors impact the business and other stakeholders, the social implications of decision making. Auditing and stewardship of limited companies. Candidates should have understanding of the role and responsibilities of the auditor, the difference between external audit and internal audit, The difference between qualified and unqualified audit reports, stewardship and the role of directors and the responsibility of shareholders, the importance of a true and fair view in respect of financial statements. Candidates are expected to use their understanding of ethical considerations, auditing to highlight relevant information and make informed business decisions. Next important lesson is business acquisition and merger. So candidates will investigate reasons why business may choose to grow by acquiring or merging with different types of business entity and how to account for acquisition of merger. This will involve assessing the distinction between acquisition of business and whole and individual assets of business as well as appraisal of business valuation and types of purchase consideration. So this is very important aspect. So very important, very interesting. So business acquisition and merger. Candidates should understanding of the nature and purpose of merger of different types of business to form a new business entity. How do people join this and make the entries in relevant ledger accounts to record the merger of two or more sole trader business to form a partnership or limited company, merger of sole trader business with an existing partnership to form a new partnership, acquisition of sole trader business or a partnership by a limited company, how to calculate the value of goodwill and acquisition of business by another entity, how to prepare statement of profit or loss statement of financial position for a newly formed business or entity following the acquisition of merger, for example, the limited company acquiring the partnership. The advantages. The advantages, disadvantages of acquisition or merger. Candidates are expected to use their understanding of business acquisition and merger to highlight relevant information and make informed business decisions. Computer's accounting system will further expand their understanding of accounting systems gain. So to challenge process by integration of computer accounting system. So we will explore approaches to managing the transfer of accounting data to computer system and necessary safeguards. So the computer accounting systems should have understanding of process of transferring business accounts, ways in which integrity of accounting can be ensured during the transfer of computer's accounting system. Knowledge of specific applications is not required. So next part, analysis and communication of accounting information. Candidates will further enhance their appreciation of the use of accounting ratios by extending knowledge of range of ratios between those introduced in 1.6, in particular reference to investment ratios applicable to limited companies. So other than AIS level, so we will have some specific ratios in A levels. Candidates will assess how these ratios may interpret different performance indicators and providing justified advice to stakeholders, as well as able to suggest possible measures to for improvement. Analysis and communication of accounting information. So understanding of how to calculate the following ratios: working capital cycle in days, net working assets to revenue, interest cover, gearing ratio, earnings per share, price earnings ratio, dividend per share, dividend yield, dividend cover. Candidates must use the formula given in appendix section 3. These are the only formula accepted in candidate's response. How to analyze and evaluate the results of ratios and draw conclusions. How to make appropriate recommendations to stakeholders on the basis of analysis undertaken. The interrelationship between ratios. Candidates are expected to use their understanding of the calculation and analysis of ratios to make informed business decisions using this relevant information. So the next part, cost and management accounting for A levels, activity-based costing. So candidates explore the application of activity-based costing as a contrast to traditional costing methods already learned in 2.2. Candidates will learn again insight how overheads will be allocated to products using measures which are not directly related to traditional organization basis such as direct labor hours, but rather to activities which cause the cost to be incurred in production process cost drivers. Candidates will assess the uses and limitations of such a system. Activity-based costing. Candidates show understanding of application of activity-based costing, the uses and limitations of ABC, what is meant by cost driver. How to use ABC to identify the appropriate cost driver. A portion allocated to overheads calculate the total cost and selling price of the unit. The effect of different methods of overhead absorption on the basis of cost. How to apply ABC costing techniques to make business decisions, recommendations, and supporting data. So the next lesson is standard costing. So candidates will consider how business may use system of crediting values as basis for comparison with actual costs and revenues in order to assess performance. Candidates will explore possible reasons for the difference between actual and expected costs and revenues and how there are internal relationships between the differences. This will require an evaluation of how information can be used to improve the budget preparation process and business performance. Candidates will also evaluate non-financial consideration which have impact on business decisions. Standard costing. Candidates who have understanding of the meaning of system of standard costing in an organization, the advantage of designing the standard costing system, how standard costing can be used as a need to improve the performance of business, how to calculate the following variances, direct material price variance, direct labor rate variance, and overhead fixed expenditure and volume variance, fixed overhead capacity and efficiency variances. So sales price and volume variance, possible causes of favorable adverse variances and the relationship to each other, how to make business decisions and recommendations using supporting data, the significance of non-financial factors in standard costing. Budgeting and budgetary control. So candidates will investigate the reasons why an organization uses a system of budgetary control. This will involve exploring the nature, purpose and contents of budgets and how they may use the purpose of planning to control needs of organization objectives. We will consider how an organization may compare expected actual results and in doing so assess the budgeting process can affect human responses to achieve budget targets. We will also evaluate non-financial considerations which may have impact on business decisions. Budgeting and budgetary control should have understanding of the advantages and disadvantages of a budgetary system to an organization. The advantages, the disadvantages preparing budgets using spreadsheets. What is then the master budget? How to prepare the following budget? That is sales budget, production budget, purchase budget, labor budget, trade receivables, trade payables, cash, purchase budget, statement of revenue, budget, statement of financial position. The effect of limiting factors on the preparation of budget. The benefits of flexible budgeting over fixed budgeting. How to prepare a flexible budget statement possible. Causes of difference between actual and flexible data. How to prepare a statement reconciling the flexible budget cost of production and the actual cost of production. How to prepare a statement reconciling the budgeted flexible budgeted profit with the actual profit. How to make business decisions and recommendations using the supporting data. The actual behavioral aspects of budgeting, including targets, incentives, and motivation. The significance of non-financial factors. So investment appraisal. So my last lesson, that is the last topic of 4.4 investment appraisal. Candidates will address ways in which business may make decision about a prospective capital investment. This will require an assessment of the strengths and limitations of various investment appraisal techniques, including examining the time value of money and discriminating the difference between accounting profits and cash flows. Candidates will also evaluate non-financial considerations which may have impact on investment decisions. So investment appraisal. So what are we learning in investment appraisal? Candidates have understanding of the future net cash inflows and outflow eroding from the project, how to apply the following capital investment appraisal techniques, payback, accounting rate of return ARR, average profit average investment into 100, net present value, internal rate of return, the advantages and disadvantages of these capital investment appraisal techniques. how to make investment decisions and recommendations using supporting data, the significance of non-financial factors, questions on discounted paper will not be set. So you don't have to worry about this. So questions having the minimum receiving value of investment at the end of the project will not be set. So this is all we have. So for A levels, Cambridge, so we have discussed the entire. So we'll be working out problems based on this. So we'll be working out examination questions, past exam questions. We'll be discussing couple of activity questions, practical questions, mock exam questions, test or knowledge questions. So even MCQs, everything we'll be discussing in detail. So kindly have a please keep a track of everything. So till then, have good luck.